Is that gonna be like?
Is it on?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's there. It's just. Is it on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Can we not get your tag? Sorry.
Oh, my, yeah. Okay.
Alright, so we're here today to talk about policies. There could be many different types of policies. So I'm gonna start off by talking about diversification in the workforce, equal opportunity. What else we got? Diversity. Okay, so now I'm gonna introduce my team. We got Jacob Badner, we got David Salvo, Tim who's walking in right now, Kevin Keys, and Gabrielle Demora. It's not necessarily the order we're gonna go in, but we're gonna work on it. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is define what policies are. So policies are a set of rules or guidelines followed by an organization to achieve their long-term goals. So yes, policies and rules likewise are not always the greatest things, but you have to abide by them in order to succeed. All right, so now we're going to talk about government policies. Government policies really have to do with tax, income taxes, what you can and cannot do, what the minimum wage is, which is $7.25 at the federal level right now, and moving its way to $15 in New Jersey. Now we're going to talk about the employee handbook or the employee manual, depending on what you get. So that is your rules, what you have to follow, what you have to wear, what you can dress your hair as, which, as we found out this year, is going to change in New York City, but in New Jersey it's still the same, so we have to abide by those rules, as well as how you treat your other employees. So now we're talking about equal opportunity. Equal opportunity in the workforce is everybody in the room has the same chance to get the same job. There is no discrimination against race, gender, sexual orientation, where you come from, who your parents are, who your dad, mom, sister, doesn't matter. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the guy who started or really spearheaded the equal opportunity movement. So you can put him in responsible for the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the 1972 Equal Opportunity Act. So now we're going to talk about equal opportunity versus affirmative action. So equal opportunity, as I said, was everybody has an equal chance to get the job. Affirmative action works more towards favoring people of a more diversified class, which at times can get a little iffy. So now we're going to talk about equal opportunity employer. So an equal opportunity employer gives everybody in the room equal opportunity, but you're going to see this more often as it's now become prevalent in all organizations. If you go on Indeed.com, you see it at the bottom of their post after they tell you what your job, what you're going to have to do, all that other stuff. Now we're going to talk about Americans with Disability Act. So American Disability Act was passed in 1990, saying you cannot discriminate against anybody with disabilities, whether it's public transportation, jobs, what they want to eat, where they can sit. Does not matter. You have to give them the same opportunity that a person that can do everyday things. This is reasonable accommodation for employees with disabilities in a business setting. So you have to give them the ability to achieve the same things that we that can walk and do different things that they may not be able to do, because their skills do not differ as much as ours do. They just have an issue that they cannot help. So this is my experience. My first job was at Superwine Warehouse, and I had a manager named Josh that was deaf in one ear and partially deaf in the other ear, but that did not change the way he was able to do his job. He did his job in an effective manner, and he was always on time and probably the best employee we had. So now we have diversity and inclusion, and then commitment to diversity. So right now, a lot of companies are moving towards this commitment to diversity, which is a great thing, because especially with the newer generations, we are willing to work with anybody and everybody because we want to achieve the highest standard. So these are three corporations that are all on the Fortune 500, and they have some of the highest diversified workplaces. Comcast in our back door in Philadelphia. Accenture is out of Dublin, Ireland.
You
You did great. We're gonna have to catch up with some time, so let the next person go. Told you I was on top there. Okay.
Is it a timer on? All right, I'm David, and I'm going to be talking about employment relationship. This involves how an employer can treat an employee based on classification, overtime, logging hours, personnel files, and nepotism. So first I'm going to talk about employment classification. The three main categories are full-time, part-time, and temporary. And with each one, you tend to see different benefits given to each type of category. So a full-time employee is someone who works the full work week, which is 40 hours, and are employed on an ongoing basis. And a part-time employee is also employed on an ongoing basis, but works less than a full-time employee, so they work less than 40 hours. And the temporary employee is hired for a certain amount of time, usually by a hiring agency. So now you know the types of employees. I'm going to talk about overtime. So the normal work week, like I said, is 40 hours, and if you work over that, you get paid a time and a half of your hourly rate, which this pay raise gives you an incentive to work longer and helps the company by you working more hours. On the other hand, if you're exempt, you don't get paid overtime. Many employees who are considered white-collar employees, such as executives, professionals, and administrators, are exempt. This can lead to those positions feeling they're overworked because they're there all the time and not getting paid more. But if the CEO leaves early every day, they're going to give off the impression they're not working hard. So for the past 2 summers, I've been working at a hotel, and they're really busy. So most of the time, I am working overtime. So I do get paid a time and a half, which is nice because it gives me an incentive to work more and they need me to work more. So my next topic is meal breaks and rest times.
All right, David, thank you.
This is your time.
All right, so I'm Jake. I'm going to be talking to you about workplace safety. Workplace safety is kind of in the name, keeping employees safe in the workplace. And there's a really big organization that kind of regulates workplace safety, and it's OSHA, which is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. And they kind of set all the guidelines to how you're supposed to administrate workplace safety. They work globally with other, similar places to OSHA, but, in different countries. They like to help each other and learn new things from other countries and how they run their businesses and their safety procedures. The next thing is a drug-free workplace. A lot of employers will drug test you, and you're not really allowed to do drugs because they'll probably fire you or send you to rehab, which isn't really fun. The Drug-Free Workplace Act of 1988 put it in a contract that you cannot take drugs or do drugs in the workplace, and if you do, again, you will get fired or get sent to rehab. Smoke-free workplaces now are becoming more and more prevalent because a lot of millennials don't really smoke, and they really don't like smoking.
Are you a millennial or a Gen Z?
I guess Gen
Or Edge, we call them.
Edge, I guess. I
Millennial.
was born in '98, so I'm like,
Millennials.
yeah,
Do you vape?
I don't.
I probably didn't ask that. Everybody else. Yeah, right. It's more of a vaping thing than a smoking thing now. Is it the same thing? Do you feel it's the same thing?
Probably in 20 years we'll find out. Yeah, I don't know.
Just pick up where you are.
Alright, so Okay? Forget the benefits of smoking, we're going to
The benefits of smoking.
whatever. We're going to
No,
workplace
you're good, I just.
violence prevention. If there's a coworker that you hate, it's probably not a good idea to punch them in the face. So there's a lot of things in place, policies to reduce violence in the workplace. It's a lot of training. There's a lot of precautions they tell you because there's a lot of consequences to hitting your coworker in the face. I'm sure a lot of people would love to do that though. One of the things they do is actually a zero tolerance policy, and it's also in the name. If you punch someone in the face, you're going to get fired. There's no room for that in the workplace. One thing that businesses have to do is they always have to have a commitment to safety. Once an employee becomes, a full-time employee after an interview, it's the workplace's job to make sure they're in a safe environment to work in. Another thing is fire safety. Every workplace needs fire alarms. You have to have a fire extinguisher, and you have to have procedures and policies in place in case of a fire. Another thing you have to have in a workplace is first aid. You have to have first aid kits, defibrillators. You also have to have some kind of training in first aid. There's a lot of workplaces, especially where I worked, we needed to have some kind of training on first aid. Another thing employers can do to keep their employees in check is they can do write-ups. I've been written up a few times, I don't know about you guys. But employers, kind of keep people in check with these. If you do something bad, they put it on record, and they get a little annoyed when they have to do that. Another thing they have to prepare for is emergency situations, and that could be like a tornado, which doesn't happen here, thank God. Power outages, again, like a fire, and they have to have procedures in place to be ready for those. Now onto my personal story. I worked as a teaching assistant for New Bridges High School, which is a high school for special ed students. And since it was special ed students, we had an insane amount of stuff we had to talk about before we even got hired. There was a lot of things you had to sign, a lot of things you had to do. One of the things was we had to learn all these procedures that they wanted us to know, and one of them is Roadrunner. For when a kid runs away, gets scared and tries to be smart and leave, we got to chase after him. We call out on walkie-talkies and say Roadrunner. We got to go chase the kid. They also taught us self-defense because a lot of those kids were pretty big and they're my age, so they sometimes would attack you, and you would have to know how to defend yourself. Some kids also had seizures, so we'd have to know how to stop those and do CPR. And also involving with that is background checks. We had to get screened
Jake,
pretty
thank
heavily. All right, sweet.
Okay, so my name is Gabriella Zamaro. I'm a psychology major and HR minor, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about hiring policies for HR. And this is basically when the policy of an organization is to select employees and candidates possessing the required qualities for a position. Also about the policies is that they want to make sure they're doing interviews and everything. And every manager is accountable for staffing needs, so they have to make sure they're identifying the staffing needs that they have, and for their departments. These managers need to identify the hiring needs of each positions that they need to hire for. And they need job requisitions is one of the documents that all the hiring processes have. There's like W-2s, other documents. But this is directly for the hiring and just explaining why this position is needed, and it determines the budget available and stuff like that. So now we're going to talk about job postings. This is an advertisement created by an employer that alerts current employees and the public about immediate positions that we are hiring for. So the information from the job requisition is going to help with the job posting, and it's going to be posted internally and externally. We're going to recruit A-level candidates for our company because we want to be tip-top shape. After a few possible candidates are identified, they're going to be recruited. We have to talk to them about how to sell them for the opportunity that they have and everything that the company has to offer. Top candidates are going to be interested in new jobs with benefits and salaries. Internal applicants, this is all the employees that work already with the company, and they'll be notified about the job offers, and they can apply for the higher positions that the company, and typically have to work at least for like a year to be qualified for this. So, and they're gonna fit the passions and unique skills for the chance to get this position. And also, this would increase, this is, the benefits of internal transfers is it increases, so employee referrals, a system for the existing employees is recommended, and external candidates for positions within the organization. Since the Human Resources Department is already notifying the existing employees, it's going to be open positions on the bulletin board, and how to refer the colleague would be filling out a form and just making sure it's completed within that week. The employee recommendation is going to be typically individually hired, and the recommending employee could possibly receive an award after the person was hired. So recruitment and advertising, these positions are needed for the organization to be advertising externally based on the need and budget requirements. The HR department is responsible for all recruitment advertising, and social media is a great place to do so. Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, everything. So with that, social media advertising is going to be, it gives a lot of advantages. It gives the company exposure. It's also, it also saves money, targets a job level, and is branding for the company. Many recruiters are posting that. Also, something I feel like was forgotten about was Indeed. I feel like that's like not in any of their statistics, and I currently get emails every day from them, and I feel like it's a good way to look for jobs as well too. So I feel like that was just always, it's like always forgotten about. Also, applicant screening. Job applications will come to their attention, and hiring staff will review the resumes, cover letters, and this planning step, and unqualified candidates, applicants are going to be withdrawn from the applicant pool, and these will highlight those who are qualified for the actual position. An experience that I had was I had an internship at the Office of Career Advancements on campus in Savage Hall, and the majority of what I was doing was critiquing resumes, cover letters, walk-ins, stuff like that. I learned the structure of how to write a resume and how employees want to be like formatting the resumes and stuff like that. Also, with the interview process, it's typically one-on-one, focusing on the experience, the skill set, the work history, and availability that person is going to have. Initial interviews are conducted by the HR department or hiring manager using behavior-based questions. And something else I did with the OCA was mock interviews where I conducted. The student came in and they just, I asked them behavioral questions as well. The picture on the left is actually like my boss, he was my boss, and that's him giving the mock interview. A reference check is,
Okay, so I'm Sam. I'm going to be talking about workplace guidelines. Basically, workplace guidelines are the rules you must follow in a work setting. I'm going to be talking about attendance, job performance, outside employment, dress and grooming, social media, acceptable use, bulletin boards, solicitation, and communication tools. It's important for you to show up to your job. You need to be there every day. It's required. The only excuse you have is an emergency, and you sort of tell your employer about it. Um, Communication between employees and supervisors is also really important because you need to be on the same page, you need to know how you're doing, and you can schedule one-on-one meetings with your employee and manager to go over expectations, goals, um, which could be either positive or negative. As I was saying, the expectations that you can go over is what your quarterly goals would be, monthly goals, yearly goals, anything along those lines. It's important for every workplace to have these because you need to be on the right track. So my personal story is I actually had my last one-on-one meeting. My supervisor at the rec center told me that I need to work on my leadership role in the field to be eligible for a raise or promotion. And I did exactly that, and I got a raise, and now I'm a supervisor instead of just an official. The dress code is really important too because every company has a specific dress code that you must follow. Whether it's a business one, you might need to wear a suit for professional and networking needs. And my dress codes for my past jobs is in the summer, I'm a nurse assistant, so I have to wear scrubs for sanitation reasons. And right now I'm a referee, so I have to wear the stripes to signify that I'm not a participant and I am officiating the game, and no one gets confused. It's also important for you to have good hygiene. Nobody wants to be next to the guy at work that smells or just isn't clean in general. So those are kind of common knowledge. Also, in every workplace, usually in the break room, there's a government postings. It's called the bulletin board, where they have to post about minimum wage, job laws, anything, discrimination rights, all of that has to be posted in every workplace. Also, employees can post things about like leisure things, recreational things. Some companies give you communication tools like a computer, a phone, email that is used for day-to-day business activities that can be used for networking or anything that your manager requires you to do with them.
You guys are like Kevin was talking about time off and leave of absence. So this is basically just any way to get a day off from work, whether it's paid or unpaid. Some examples include vacation days, religious observations, sick leave, family and medical, military, jury duty and voting. So there's two different types, paid, unpaid, pretty obvious. But the different ones get different things depending on where you work and laws that apply to each. So for the paid ones, they can include vacation days, sick days, and personal time off. And then the unpaid ones can be parental leave and things like that. So holidays for federal employees basically include 7 days: New Year's, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, the Friday after Thanksgiving, and Christmas Day. You're not required to have off, but most places do. If you do work there on that day, like essentially Wawa, McDonald's, or whatever on holidays, you're not required to pay more, but almost every business does give you time and a half, just like overtime. But they don't have to if they don't want to. But it's just a way for you to get in so they can have employees work on those days. So this is, I work at a breakfast place down the shore where I live. And I had to work on Thanksgiving and New Year's Day to cook breakfast. But my boss didn't have to give me time and a half, he could have just made me come into work, but he decided to, so I could have a reason to come in and work on those holidays. Religious observation, that, once again, you don't have to give, or you do have to give off, but you don't have to pay for it. This includes days like, the Chinese New Year, Rosh Hashanah. You have to, a couple days in advance, tell your employee in any way
Which
that,
Chinese New Year did we recently celebrate?
year of the dog,
Yep.
the pig.
What's Rosh Hashanah?
Jewish holiday.
Yeah, that's like saying Christmas is a Christian holiday. You did great, Kevin, thank you very much. All right, everybody, have a great spring break, and we'll see you when we get back.
This is amazing. What? That exam last night wasn't so good. That was not easy. You said it was gonna be easier than the other class?
Are you on neurology in the? I'm going for the sandwich making course now.
Yeah, don't.
Like volunteer.
I actually had happy once.
I was like,
Yeah, it was the max.
tomorrow.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't like, I just don't, I but after that, we'll just figure it out.
I mean, it's kind of like waiting for it down. It's like something I did.
They were bidding
I
against
couldn't see my
themselves.
mom.
You didn't get anything
I
you
saw
wanted.
my mom 2
Like,
weeks
you got
ago.
less.
Oh, you got way less than. I was like, when I watched my class. I'm excited
This
about
bird
it.
got 70 million on the table.
Thanks. I did memorize it. Like, not word for word, because it's hard to do that, but.
It's hard to do that, and you memorized it enough so that it was like very